First generation.
I get sharper and sharper every time I do it.
Yeah.
How are y'all doing today? Welcome to the Will Rogers Rotary Club of Tulsa, the friendliest club in Region 6110.
Rah.
I want to thank everybody who was able to come last week to the school where we welcomed Mayor Nichols. It was a great event. I was nervous he was going to show or not because he started to get on time, and then poof, he did. And the students were great. And the questions that we had, I think, were really good. So thank you guys for being a part of that and for encouraging that.
I really loved it that he went and sat with the kids.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
And even though he's on a tight schedule, he stuck around and took pictures with some of them and stuff. So yeah, he definitely has my support. Do we have any birthdays or anniversaries this week? Susie?
My birthday.
Your birthday, yay, Susie!
Not till the end of the month, so you have to do it every week.
Every week, okay. Every week we'll
That means you
remember
pay
that.
money every year.
Oh, that's right.
Mine was last week.
Oh, and Stan's was last week, so happy birthday, Stan and Susie. Any anniversaries or anything? I'm coming up on my year at Pause for Pause. March 15th will be, this Friday will be my year that I've been there, and it's been one heck of a journey. And I thank you guys for your support in that program, especially the dog food and everything else you guys have done. It's been wonderful. Stan had info on Rotary. Oh yeah, I forgot the pledge. I always do. Let's stand as we are able.
Wait a minute, there's a lot of birthdays this month.
Oh,
Stan had one on March 3rd.
Yeah.
Mark has one on Monday. Tom Gilbert has one on Wednesday.
well, good grief.
And then
What were all y'all's parents doing around this time?
Oh,
What was going on 9 months ago? 7 years ago. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. Amen. Stan has a date for MSNI.
Yes, I got the, before we even got out of the room last week at school, I got the email from BJ saying scratch this week's pickup because there's construction going on out at St. Francis South and they can't get the trailer and the truck in to get that we're going to be loading the items in. So our next date is 9 o'clock on Wednesday, 9 April. And we're gonna, I don't know exactly which building they're gonna, if it's gonna be the Bishop's building or which one of the other buildings out there, but BJ will let us know what the rally point is. We all just muster there and we get after it. And we're gonna load the box truck, we're gonna load a trailer, and whether or not they need help at unloading at the warehouse, they'll let us know that, you know, a lot of the times. Like when we picked up those beds at Oklahoma State Med Center, he just used the forklift, got most of them out. So anyway, but that's what's going on with that.
What date is that?
April 9th,
So
Wednesday.
night?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning. Okay.
Yes.
keep reminding us, right?
Yes.
Well,
for sure.
when he makes information available, I will pass it.
Thanks. And Mark, you had a little plug.
Well, first of all, Phil Keeter is home,
Oh, nice.
so I follow enough on Facebook that I saw a great picture of him and his son, and I believe he has a daughter, so. Call in, drop him a note. Also my plug, Susie was at Boston Avenue last night, she heard the Tulsa Chorale rehearsing. That concert is coming up on Saturday the 29th. It'll be at TU Lorton Center, accompanied by the Tulsa Symphony, be doing the Haydn creation.
Oh,
You'll-
nice.
You will literally hear the creation story. Big time, lots of great solos.
Could you email me that information so I can put it?
I
in our
sure
next
will.
meeting?
It's March the 29th, the last Saturday of this month.
7.
7:30. Tickets at the door or online.
Great, thank you so much.
I have 2.
Yes, Susie, please.
Want to remind you about the shoes that we'll be collecting, and Patty and Jenny have put together a little social and service project for us on March the 19th to meet at Metro Warehouse, which is Metro Wear, sorry, 51st and Harvard, to buy shoes. Apparently they have a bunch of low price shoes, and then they will take them to Mappets the next day.
Okay.
And then we'll go over and have a little social at El Patron.
Oh, nice.
What day and time again?
Right.
March 19th.
March 19th, 5 o'clock.
What day of the week is
That's a
that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thursday. Oh, then that's right, Wednesday the 19th. Thank
Wednesday.
you. Then also, in light
We'll
of
start all over. Let me
going
say
along
that.
with Mark's announcement, our very accomplished 12-year-old, he looks 12 years old, organist at Boston Avenue is doing a concert on March 23rd. The cool thing about it is if you attend, you have the opportunity to register to win a $100 Visa gift card. So that's pretty cool.
Pretty
And,
cool.
and he is outstanding.
Yes.
He is
He
outstanding.
is
I've heard that
every
also.
bit as good as some of the international organists that we've had come. If you ever have a chance to listen to church, if you don't go there, you will just be amazed
You will be
at how he brings everything out of the organ. He's fantastic.
That's great. Wow. All right, any other announcements or anything else I'm forgetting? All right, I'm gonna read off a short little bio for Connie, and she gave me permission to make some stuff up. So this is gonna be a test for us all. You gotta tell if I'm lying or if she can believe what I'm saying or not.
2 truths and 1 lie, is that what
Yeah,
we're
2
doing?
truths, 1 lie. Author Connie Cronley's latest book, A Life on Fire, Oklahoma's Kate Barnard. Am I saying that correctly? Barnard? Okay. Was named the best book of the year in 2022 by the Oklahoma Historical Society. It's a biography of the first woman elected to the state office in Oklahoma, a popular social reformer whose work was destroyed by graft and corruption. Years before, the FBI arrived in the Osage Nation to investigate the deaths of headright owners as recounted in The Killers of the Flower Moon. Kate Barnard's office reported it first. Cronley has published 3 books of essays and co-authored the memoir of the late Edward Perkins, a career Foreign Service officer who was in the United States' first black ambassador assigned to South Africa during apartheid. She's a columnist with Tulsa People and does a monthly KOTV book review. She's executive director of Iron Gate Soup Kitchen, which we just had Iron Gate speak here not too long ago, before, and was the managing director at the Tulsa Ballet Theater. I went from wearing little black dresses to hugging people who had slept under a bridge, she said. I believe Kate Barnard is the most important woman in Oklahoma's history, Cronley says. But if that's so, why are people not heard of her? Answering that question is the mission of A Life on Fire, the biography of Catherine and Kate Barnard, a fiery political reformer and fearless activist on behalf of the weak and the helpless. Barnard was the first woman elected to state office at the Oklahoma Commissioner of Charities and Corrections in 1907, almost 15 years before they won the right to vote in the United States. Excuse me.
She was a badass.
Sounds like a badass. Connie enjoys movies, theater, and jumping rope. Please welcome Connie Cronley, please.
Very nice and almost beautiful.
Almost.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for lunch. Thank you for the chance to tell you about Kate Barnard. Since this book came out, I've done lots of talks about it across the state. And I always start by asking, how many of you have heard of Kate Barnard? And that's more hands that usually go up. Unless I'm talking to a group of historians, and then all the hands go up,
Right.
and I think, now what am I going to say? I do think Kate Barnard is the most important woman in state history. And the question is, why haven't we heard about her? She was a woman, a person, who dedicated her life literally to service for others. I saw a quote just this morning that I like a lot. It's this: service is love made visible. And Rotary, with your selfless service to community, certainly understands that. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that all history is really biography. And Kate's biography is the history of Oklahoma. She was such a fiery, progressive, social reformer. She was involved, although women couldn't vote, she couldn't even vote for herself, she was involved in writing the state's constitution with many of the platforms that she brought to it. And those were the platforms that helped Oklahoma at statehood be identified nationally as the most progressive state in the Union. Now let's just think about that.
Yeah.
Today we never get the word progressive and Oklahoma very close together. So her title was, and it was a Department of State Legislature, State Department created for her at the Constitution, Charities and Correction and Commissioner of Charities and Corrections. It was the only state office that would be held by a woman. So she is known for that title, but I think what's more important is what she did and the causes she identified. As Commissioner of Charities and Corrections, she was responsible for oversight, inspecting, making recommendations for, at the time, 325 organizations. Mental hospitals, orphanages, county jails, foundling homes. And I think they thought, I'm pretty sure they thought, the boys that elected her, that they would pat her on the head and say, thank you very much. Go back to your little office. But they did not reckon with Kate Barnard, who rolled up her sleeves and jumped into that job with great passion. She was known nationally as the good angel of Oklahoma. And after she dived into her work, her department became known as the hell-raising department. The issues that she identified at statehood were these. This is what she fought for. This is what she campaigned for. Compulsory education, child labor, really just the overall well-being of children, criminal justice reform, livable wages. In her day, that was unions. Today, we might call it minimum wage. Mental health treatment, and what was then called the Indian question, fair treatment for Indians. That was her issues in 1907. They're the same issues we see in the news today.
We need her back.
We need her back. So one of the times I was giving a talk about Kate, it was at Zarrow, and a woman on the front row said, if she was the first woman elected to state office in 1907, when was the second woman elected? I didn't know. 1979. It was Norma Eagleton, Corporation Commission. And somebody in the audience said, well, there's your problem right there. No women running the state. Her primary issues, Kate's primary issues, were public education and the well-being of children in the state. She said famously, a child is the state's greatest resource. She began her career before she was elected, during the Constitutional Convention, by making a tour back east of the mills and the mines and the factories where children were employed. Because she was determined that we would become a state outlawing child labor. So she went across the state. It was just territories then. Long dresses, button shoes, corseted, talking about the evils of child labor, what she had seen of those conditions. She climbed down in the mines with the little children. She spoke very dramatically, often religiously. And she would say, down, down, down in those inky depths where no sun shines and no flowers grow, what would our Savior say if he came back to see what we are doing to our children? One of her most moving talks, the territories, was talking about visiting a bottling factory back east. And most of the little employees were little girls, 10, 11, 12. And she said the factory worker walked up and down the aisles looking at them carefully in the face. And she said, why are you doing that? What are you looking for? And he said, they're bottling arsenic. So when their lips turn blue, I take them outside for a fresh air. Well, you can see why the people loved her. She wanted a state that prohibited that. And even in the mining communities where they didn't even speak English, they gathered to hear her because she was speaking for their children. And she was known as our Kate. I started working on this book back in the 1970s when I met Dr. Angie DeBow, our great historian. And she had heard Kate speak when she was a young teacher. And she told me, what I read subsequently, that Kate was a brilliant orator. Dr. DeBow said her compassion burned like a flame. But she had a special voice, like a silver bell, and it carried. She spoke to audiences of thousands and they could hear her. She was very small, barely 5 feet tall, 90 pounds, never married, never had children of her own. But Dr. DeBow saw her do this, and I read this. When she spoke to people, she would raise one arm above her head and say, I only weigh 90 pounds, but as long as God lets me live, and she repeated it like a mantra, as God lets me live, I will fight for the children. Her second big fight was for compulsory education, to require children to go to school. Huge battle in the legislature after she was elected. It took 2 years to get it into office. A lot of opposition, including from Alfalfa Bill Murray, the governor, because the farmers were really opposed to this, requiring children to go to school. It was sort of a, don't tell us how to raise our kids. We hear that too. Well, the bill got passed, and here was the requirement, the dramatic reform requirement. Children under the age of 16 had to be in school 3 months a year. Well, we've made some progress, haven't we? So the reason she was known as the hell-raising department is she would go into the county jails and say, you've got 50 men in here that's designed for 12. Where's the water bucket, the night bucket? What if they get thirsty? And the sheriff should say, well, reckon they don't get thirsty here. She said, no, we're gonna clean this out, we're gonna whitewash it, they're to have water. She went into the mental hospitals, the state's 2 mental hospitals, which is it was a big state battle. And she had a very progressive idea about treating people with mental illness. She said it's an illness. They are patients. You were wrong when you think they're inflicted by the devil. You will not beat them with wet soapy towels. You will not tie them to the beds. You will get heat in here. It's so cold in here, I'm shivering. Well, the families of these people loved her for taking this step. Every time she made progress, she was making enemies because she was criticizing the superintendents and the sheriffs. And many of these were political appointees. So the enemies were stacking up behind her. But then the mistake of her life was to take on what she called the Indian question. The Indian question. And for her, it was just about children to start with. She famously said in one speech, and she repeated it, "How can women wear diamonds when babies cry for bread?" We must care for our children. So she was asked by Senator Gore, blind Senator Gore, and the Superintendent of Indian Affairs in Oklahoma to look into some egregious conditions involving Indian orphans in the state orphanages. So these were children under her care by law. And she said, she was from Oklahoma City and Guthrie. She says, "I'm from the west side. I don't know anything about Indians. That was our problem over here on the east side. Well, what's going on?" She found first 3, she called wild children, living out in a hollow tree and foraging for food. They turned out to be Cherokee orphans with vast wealth. And they had guardians who wasn't looking after them. So she looked in the orphanages and found they were full of Indian orphanages, Indian orphans, because there was a great plague of tuberculosis, among other things. And because of the allotment with the land, they were very wealthy. And because of federal law, each of them had to have a legal guardian. And one guardian could have 40 children or more and never pay attention to them, never look at them. So Kate was determined, and her department, she had one lawyer in her little department, to remove the legal guardians, stop the illegal behavior, restore the property to the children so they could grow up, not to be wards of the state, but to have an independent life. Well, when she took that on, the state turned against her. And the word on the street was, now she has stopped preaching and started meddling. She was standing between the grafters and lots of money. Let me find my notes to tell you how much money. Dr. DeBow wrote about this and Still the Waters Run. She was the first to see the documents of what was being done about the property being stolen from the children by graft, by fraud, by embezzlement, by bogus marriages, and even by death. Anything to get the property. It was described as an unprecedented situation in America. Here in eastern Oklahoma, 60,000 Native American children under the age of 18 owned 1/3 of the territory. And it was rich in asphalt and timber and coal, and oil was coming, and in today's money, it was valued at $4,650,000,000. That's a lot of money. And everybody wanted a piece of it. Corrupt lawyers. It was under probate, and they approved the guardians with corrupt lawyers, corrupt judges, corrupt businessmen, corrupt ministers. When Dr. DeBow wrote about it in her book, she called it an orgy of plunder unknown in American history. So here was Kate, standing between all this money and all these people who wanted it. And they said, she has to go. She has to go. The press that loved her wouldn't talk to her anymore. The entire 4th legislature turned against her. They wanted to eliminate her office, but they couldn't because it was created in the state constitution. But what could they do? Cut off her funding. And that's what they did. Cut enough funding so she only had one secretary, nobody to investigate, inspect, or take it to court. It ruined her department, it ruined her health, and it ruined her life. She died a recluse in an Oklahoma City hotel. But before before she died, after she left office, this was about 1914, she was asked by the former Secretary of Interior and other officials to take this situation called the scandal of Oklahoma's Indians, to take it public, nationally, because the only hope they thought, it was clear that the state government wasn't going to take care of this. The only hope they thought was for the federal government to restore their own power and authority over the Indians. So she went on a national speaking engagement. And remember, she had great oratorial skills. And unfortunately, World War I was breaking out, and the eyes of the world were looking elsewhere. Her last great speech was at Lake Mohonk to several groups of people and organizations known generally as Friends of the Indians. And she told them the situation in Oklahoma. She told them what she was trying to do. And she told them what was happening to her. She told them from the beginning her career that she had won every election, all the bills she had passed. And here's where we were. This is her last great speech. I tell them about this and they say, Kate, you're ruining your political future with this fight. And I tell them, I can't ruin it. Because when I'm dead, the youth of tomorrow will see what I have fought. They will take up the banner where I drop it, and they will march upward toward the heights, because no battle for justice was ever lost. So I don't think her battle was lost, because she is a great example to us. And I think the youth of tomorrow that she's talking to is us. We have the battle for justice to fight. I'm very fond of the quote from the great civil rights lawyer, John Lewis, who said, we must never be complacent, and we must never get lost in a sea of despair, but we must be optimistic, and we mustn't be afraid to make noise and make good trouble. So sometimes when I sign Kate books, I say, make a good fire. She was a woman of great moral courage and would have wounds yelling at her in political battles. I, like some of you, I'm sure, I'm very concerned about what's going on with the democracy. This is not the America that I have grown up knowing, and I'm very worried about it, and I wonder what can I do? Nothing nationally, very little state. My letters and emails, I think, go directly into the trash, do not even pass go. But I think it's all about community, and we do what we can here locally. So one tiny thing I'm doing is this. I'm having a birthday party. I'm participating in a birthday party for Kate. May 23rd will be the 150th anniversary of her birth. A great opportunity to celebrate her. So Oak Tree Books, which is a little used bookstore that specializes in history and Native American books, and Magic City Books, we're going to host a happy birthday Kate party, just free. Come have your picture made with a cutout of Kate. Come celebrate history and books. I think history is so important to know because it is what shapes us, guides us, teaches us. And when people say to me, why haven't we read about Kate in our history? And I say, the past is what happened. History is what's written about it. And we look at who has been writing history and why they were writing it. Back in the 70s, I wrote magazine articles about the Osage murders and about the race massacre. The information was there. We weren't ready to hear it now. So this party for Kate will be, it's Memorial Day weekend, Saturday afternoon, 2 to 4, free. Some authors will be there, history authors like Michael Wallace will be there to sign books, Cirilla Askew. Some local officials will stop by, the mayor, I hope. John Waldron, who's such an advocate for education, former mayor, Roger Randall. I invite you to come be a co-host, pass out cookies, direct people to register to vote there. Because community is where we start, isn't it? It's all we can do, and from there we grow. So I brought some books for you if you want to buy them. I brought them if you don't want to buy them. But I ask you to celebrate Kate Barnard's 150th birth, a woman of great moral courage who showed us the way. Thank you very much. Do you have questions? Somebody will have to interpret them. I'm not hearing well today.
If I did the math right, she was in her 40s when she passed away?
She died in 1930, so she was just
Oh.
about 50,
I
yeah.
thought you said it was 1917.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. What time is the event, and is it at Magic City?
And at Oak Tree on Delaware and 11.
Both places?
Both places,
Okay.
2 to 4.
2 to 4, okay. Cool.
What are you reading right now?
Am I ready?
No, what are you reading right now? What is on your nightstand?
I just got Catherine Nagel's book, The Fire We Carry, which just won the Oklahoma History Book Award about Native American rights. Personally, I'm reading A Room with a View by Forrester because I love that movie. And I wanted to see what the book is like. So I don't read many novels. I read mostly nonfiction. Are we drawing?
Yeah, they're doing a little 50-50 raffle.
You
Well,
want
thank
me
you so much.
out of the
Connie.
way?
No, we want you to draw
Oh, I
the
get to-
number, yeah. So they can't blame me if it doesn't get in there.
The number is
Oh, let's see here, 319. Stan, is that you again?
No.
Ah, Mark got it. Yay, Mark. Thank you very much, Connie. If you'd like to purchase a book, she's here for us.
I will set up over here somewhere.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
So good.
Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, we will end with our four-way test. Right here, so I can see it. You stand as you're able. Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned?
And will it be fun?
Will anybody find out?
Thank you guys so much.
Next week, the director of the Guthrie Center will be here, Cody Shaw,
Oh, great.
Yay.
and
Woody.
the Woody Guthrie Center, yeah.
Guthrie,
So
Oklahoma.
we'll hear about some things that were actually in the Bob Dylan movie.
Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you guys so much.
I really